5 excellent reasons to ignore the narcissist. Of course, apart from this one that's talking to you, because he is the font of all of the knowledge that you require. It's commonly the case that as a consequence of not understanding narcissism, failing to understand the necessities of a no-contact regime, and the obscuring power of emotional thinking, that a victim of the narcissist is drawn into some kind of interaction with us. The victim thinks that it is acceptable, for instance, to turn and at least be civil towards the narcissist if they bump into the narcissist on the street. Or that they can turn and tear a strip off the narcissist, berating the narcissist for their behaviour. Possibly to ask the narcissist, why have you done what you've done? Or what do you think you're playing at when you said this to our daughter when she was with you last week? Getting on the telephone and lambasting the narcissist for what the narcissist has been saying about the victim, as you hear about the smears that have been put about concerning you. These reactions are common and understandable, but of course, they lead to more problems for you. And instead, it is axiomatic that you obey the first golden rule of freedom, which is once you know, you go, you get out, you stay out. No excuses, no reasons, no buts and ifs as to why you should be maintaining any form of interaction between you and the narcissist. A common difficulty that people have is understanding how they should behave should the narcissist approach them in person. You may well have blocked, you may well have even improved that situation by changing your telephone number. So there's no difficulty there. The narcissist can't ring you or text you because they don't know your number. You've come off social media sensibly, at least for a period of time, and therefore again, there's nothing to ignore because you're not going to see the messages when they arrive. But what happens when the narcissist comes and hoovers you directly, in person, either coming to your door, knocking on it, wanting to talk to you, or hanging around and waiting for you outside your place of work, or you just happen to bump into the narcissist walking down the road, in a bar, at the library, at the shopping centre. Too often, because your emotional thinking is not yet at the lowest level that it ought to be, it gets hold of you and causes you to make the mistake of thinking, well, I'll just be civil, at least it's okay that we're polite. Or even causing you perhaps to round on the narcissist, saying, you've got a fucking cheek showing your face in here. Who do you think you are after the way that you've treated me? Your narcissistic trait of pride being corrupted to cause you to lash out in such a manner. Or your narcissistic trait of anger causing you to erupt. It might be that the narcissist shows up with your replacement, and therefore your narcissistic trait of jealousy and envy is corrupted, causing you to go over and say something to this person, saying, good luck being with him, he'll only fuck you over like he did with me. The problem for you is that where the narcissist appears in person, following your escape or disengagement, it invariably can occur in those early stages of your no-contact regime. Your emotional thinking doesn't disappear overnight. It takes time to reduce. It's like being on a diet. If you need to shed 3 stone, short of cutting your leg off, you're not going to get rid of 3 stone overnight. It will take months of eating sensibly and exercising to get you down to that target weight. Similarly, with the reduction of your emotional thinking, what you must do is stay out of the 5 arenas of interaction, one of which is direct physical involvement with the narcissist, and you have to do so for a good 6-month period of staying out of those arenas so you get your emotional thinking down to the lowest level so that it then can't corrupt your relevant traits, it can't cause flawed logic, and it's not powerful enough to make you feel certain emotions so that you act upon them. That is part of the achievement of your recovery. But when it comes to the direct physical hoover by the narcissist, turning up in person, as I say, at your house or at your apartment, at where you work, or at a place that you're at, here are 5 excellent reasons that you need to drive into your brilliant minds and keep fixed there as to how you can secure the win. Take note of these, apply them, and keep them at the forefront of your mind with regard to any potential physical hoover that comes about from the narcissist. Of course, you should have organised your no-contact regime to minimise the risk of these direct physical hoovers. For instance, staying away from particular places that you know the narcissist will go to, staying away from particular places that the narcissist knows that you attend. There is much that you can do to reduce the risk in that regard. But to bolster those prospects and to understand how it impacts upon the narcissist without having to see it, I'm going to explain to you the 5 excellent reasons to ignore the narcissist. Commonly, you want to see a reaction from the narcissist. Your emotional thinking makes you do that. You want to see the narcissist getting worked up. You want to see the narcissist dismayed or annoyed. It's understandable. You want to see that the narcissist's life has turned to shit. Again, all of this is driven by the corruption of your empathic and narcissistic traits by your emotional thinking. But it doesn't actually stand you any good stead. There are numerous downsides to seeing that and witnessing that, which I have explained previously. What you need to keep in mind is this. You may want to understand everything about serial killers, but what you don't do is become friends with one. You watch a documentary about them. You might want to understand all of the behaviours of a lion, but what you don't do is venture into the lion's den, because it will maul you, because a lion is a lion. And similarly, you, driven by your own addiction and the desire to see what the outcome is, are conned by your emotional thinking, trying to cause you to witness the response and understand by being there how the narcissist reacts. You don't need to. You have access to me. I know how our kind think and operate and how we feel as a consequence of the things that you do towards us. Therefore, what you ought to do is benefit from my unrivaled information by listening to me, paying heed to what I explain to you, and applying that. So, here are the 5 excellent reasons to ignore the narcissist which you need to pin at the forefront of your mind. Number 1, you will wound the narcissist. 1-0 to you. If you ignore us in person, you cause substantial wounding to us. This is because we are expecting a feast of fuel, either consciously, where an aware narcissist, or unconsciously, where an unaware narcissist, because we receive the fuel through those various strands of the look in your eyes, the expression on your face, your body language, gestures, the words that you use, and the tone associated with those words. And therefore, we go expecting a banquet and a feast, and we are denied it. In the same way, if you go round to your friends and you're going around for coffee and you think they might serve you some cookies and they don't, you're not overly disappointed. But if they've invited you around for a 9-course tasting menu and then cancel at the last minute, you'll be much more disappointed. The effect is similar for us. Where our narcissism anticipates an in-person reaction, not only are we asserting control over you, but it's double bubble for us. We are going to draw a lot of fuel from you. There is that expectation. And if you deny it us, not only are you wounding us, but the wounding is substantial because the ignoring is in person. So when you don't open the front door, when you cross the street to avoid us, when you walk away from us, where you get up from the table at a restaurant and go to the restroom to avoid us, you cause substantial wounding. Number 2, you starve us of fuel. Fuel is our lifeblood, and we want it. So not only is it the case by ignoring us you wound us, making us feel unimportant, weakened and vulnerable, but you also then starve us of the very thing that we need, which powers our construct. And therefore, by not giving us any fuel at all, because you ignore us, you will land another blow upon us. 2-0 to you. If you stop and chat with us and be civil, you'll give us fuel. If you look at us nervously, you'll give us fuel. If you walk away doing nothing, you don't give us any fuel. Don't think that the narcissist will stand there thinking, oh, this person's scared of me. Yes, the narcissist is likely to portray that to other people. And yes, the narcissist may well think that afterwards as a consequence of the self-defense mechanism that the narcissism imposes. But in that moment, when you ignore us, you wound us because you make us feel vulnerable and weakened. You're telling us that we aren't important. And we must be important. We must be recognised and validated by the world. And you're starving us of the very thing that we need. Number 3, you avoid an adverse consequence. If you ignore us, you can't be disappointed in the failure to persuade us to do something that we won't do. If you avoid us, You don't suffer the lambasting that you ordinarily would get if you engaged with us in an argument. If you ignore us by staying behind a closed door, then all of the name-calling that might be issued just bounces off the door. You stick some headphones on, you can't hear it, therefore it doesn't impact upon you. If you're behind that closed door, you can't be beaten. You can't be spat at. You can't have your money taken. You see, ordinarily, if you engage with us, you risk suffering an adverse consequence, whether it's frustration at not getting an outcome, whether being physically assaulted, verbally assaulted, whether it's being made to feel belittled and invalidated. All of those things and more are the adverse consequences of the engagement. However, if you ignore us, you won't suffer those things, and therefore 3-0 to you. Number 4, you will not suffer a significant increase in your emotional thinking because you're not interacting with us. Yes, the moment you see us, your emotional thinking will go upwards slightly. But if you walk away, remain away, stay behind that closed door, put the headphones on, don't listen to what's being shouted through the letterbox, then you're not interacting with us, and therefore your emotional thinking can't climb. Emotional thinking is your enemy within. No contact is the way to get it down. And if you don't interact with us because you ignore us, you don't suffer an increase in emotional thinking. 4-0 to you. And finally, the 5th excellent reason to ignore the narcissist is that you decrease the risk of being hoovered, all else being equal. This is because, let us say on Monday you ignore the narcissist in person, on Tuesday you come on the narcissist radar. The narcissism asks, in the unconscious, is this person under control? Answer, no. Therefore, first law of narcissism, all appliances must be brought under control and kept under control. Therefore, the narcissism behooves the narcissist to try and assert control over you. However, in evaluating whether this should involve a hoover, one of the considerations is, has the narcissist been wounded recently, and if so, how recently and how substantial was it? And if you ignored the narcissist in person the day before, you caused substantial wounding. This wound remains raw, which means that on the Tuesday, unless there is some other criteria which overrides the wounding, and usually there isn't, for the most part, this means that narcissism, acting as a self-defense mechanism, will not drive the narcissist to then try and engage with you, because all it's doing is sending the narcissist into a situation where he's likely to be ignored again, meaning more wounding, starving of fuel, made to feel unimportant and weakened. The self-defense mechanism hasn't done its job. Therefore, by ignoring us on the Monday, you reduce the risk, all else being equal, of being hoovered for a few days, possibly a few weeks. Depends upon the other criteria and what else is going on in the narcissist fuel matrix. Conversely, if you interact with us in a friendly way, you increase the risk of being hoovered because you're then viewed as a friendly. And when you come on the radar the following day, the narcissism basically says, have we been wounded recently? No. Good. Therefore, you're more likely to be hoovered. So accordingly, 5 excellent reasons to ignore the narcissist, to remember that you should do these things and not engage with us, not interact with us, namely, you wound, 1-0, no fuel, 2-0, no adverse consequence, 3-0, no increase in emotional thinking, 4-0, reduction of risk of being hoovered, 5-0. 5 excellent reasons. We hate them. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.